Hello, and welcome to Open Wounds Podcast. I'm your host, Candace. This podcast is about healing the wounds that you can't see and leading a revolution against oppressive systems that keep them open. We're going to talk about really practical tools for managing complex PTSD, as well as dive into relevant current day topics that make healing a daily practice. You can follow us at IG at Open Wounds Podcast or watch on YouTube at Open Wounds Podcast. Please rate, review, like, subscribe, all the things, and enjoy this week's episode. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Open Wounds Podcast. I have a guest with me today. His name is William Person. He is an Olympic athlete. He also has a nonprofit treating CTE, which is as he'll explain, a form of traumatic brain injury. He's very passionate about helping people heal and recover from these injuries. And so welcome to the podcast, William.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so I usually like to ask my guests what inspired you to do the work you're doing, because a lot of people can experience maybe the same thing you did and they just go about their lives. They'll, just continue on, but something sparked in you a passion to help other people. So would you like to share with everybody like your journey of how you ended up here?
Well, I guess the truth of it is guilt.
Mm.
What brought me here is guilt. Man, so people don't usually ask me that kind of stuff. So now you're pulling out
Sorry,
the
I didn't
emotional part.
go right to the jugular at the gate.
Oh man, yeah, it's and it's still very emotional for me because I stopped racing in 2007.
And you were
Well, I
bobsled?
began. Yeah, I was bobsledder. Yeah, before that I was a track and field athlete.
Mhm.
You can also see me in like movies like Jerry Maguire.
Oh, wow.
I'm the one doing the running down the football field with they hired me just to run fast and put on these 5 different uniforms and
Whoa.
make it look like there was real world-class athletes out there. So that was me doing a lot of that. But I also, mental health was my background. Like when I first left college, I was 23. I worked at this place called San Joaquin County Mental Health Department. And it was the first mental health facility west of the Mississippi River. So
Oh, wow.
all the extreme behaviors, they flocked there for help. And so I cut my teeth learning about, depression and bipolar schizophrenia. And then we also had some of the extreme people come through there, like the criminally insane. And they would come for evaluation for courts. And sometimes we had these people, oh, it was so creepy. I'm 23, I'm a baby. Like now that I know how old I really was, I was a baby dealing with this stuff. Yeah, people that had lobotomies were still walking around back then.
Wow.
Yeah, man. And you're talking about real zombies, man.
Yeah, and in the
when you see
South, there
these,
was a whole lot of experimental stuff that happened that was kind of under the radar that a lot of people
well,
don't know
these
about.
people were in Central California, so
Oh,
this
wow.
was up north. Yeah. That facility is in Central California. So it was the first facility
Oh.
west of the Mississippi River. So yeah, no, that wasn't a Southern thing.
Oh, wow.
That
I
was
didn't
going
realize
on
there
all throughout
wasn't
the
one
country.
out in Arkansas or Texas or
Well,
something
there
too.
probably was. I'm sure there was, but this was the first one, the west of that river.
Wow.
Which is ironic because I grew up in St. Louis, so that river
Yeah.
kind of splits the country down the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
you
so
were
that
23 and working in mental health?
yeah, and so eventually I opened the first ever I created it and I wrote it and presented it to the state of Utah. It was the first ever independent living transitional housing program. So when I was around 27, 28, I opened this program. And it was inpatient, so the clients they came and lived inside my program. And like back then I was 27, 28
I was
when I
going to say
opened.
that's phenomenal for a 27-year-old because I worked in social
Yeah.
work for 10 years and I was in my 30s and it was rough to we had
Yeah.
an inpatient and we had a day treatment where they would come and hang out for the day and then go home, and we dealt with like the same population, and you see
Yeah.
like some crazy stuff. It's very taxing on you
Oh
mentally
yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
emotionally.
Matter of fact, the recidivism rate in Utah at that time for youth was around 97%.
Whoa.
And for anybody who came to my program, it was if you made it past 30 days, it was probably like 23% somewhere. It was really low.
Mm,
And
that's
so,
good.
yeah, what we were doing was different. It was creative. And, and so mental health was my background, in
Mm,
which when it comes full circle, when I started to struggle with the symptoms of CTE, all the things I taught my clients over the years is what kind of helped save my life too, you know.
Hmm.
And so that's why I'm really passionate about this, is because I had to live it. And there was one time, one of my teammates, he called me because he wanted to be a writer, and I was doing a lot of writing back then. And we had these periodic. He would call me periodically. It was, you know, but we talk about his ideas, and
Hmm.
they were so creative. I've never seen any movies like that, and I was just encouraging him, and I was showing him how to put it in the right format so he can get it made.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I thought it was creative writing.
Hmm.
Um, and this went on for about a year or two. But eventually, the last time he called me, he was speaking gibberish.
Oh, wow.
And so what I know now is that his mind has started to slip. Those things that he was
Mm.
writing about wasn't reality. You know, his
Mm.
mind had already slipped. And so when he called me speaking gibberish, I couldn't understand him. So he got so frustrated with me that
Mm.
he just hung up the phone. And, you know, mental health was my background. So here I am telling myself, okay, this is my buddy. I got to help him.
Right, right.
But the truth is, I didn't do anything to help him at all.
Mm.
I just talked about it all day to myself. I was kind of isolated at that time. And eventually I got a phone call, and it was on the media that he went to his family's factory and he hung himself.
Wow.
And he was a two-time Olympian for USA, and I think he raced for another country at one point.
Wow.
And so that guilt sat on me, and I felt responsible, and I felt like my hands were a little dirty because I didn't do anything to help my buddy. And the truth was, if you fast forward, um, eventually I realized he was in stage 4 of CTE after his autopsy.
Oh, wow.
So I realized I couldn't help him anyway. Nothing I could have done would have helped him. But also I realized at that time, like, I'm the one that needed help too. And I just didn't know it. I was literally living on the floor at that time. Like, I had taken the mattress out of my bedroom and put it in the living room because it put me close to the kitchen, in the bathroom,
Mm.
in the front door, you know,
So can
and
you explain to everybody what
yeah.
CTE is? Because that was a term until I met you. I had never heard of it before. So I had to like Google and I'm like, what does this mean? And I know a lot about mental health just because
Yeah.
I'm in it all the time. And so I was really shocked. I'm like, what's CTE and why have I not heard about this?
Well, the reason that you haven't heard about it is the reason why it's still kind of going on and it's getting where it is. Anytime you see an NFL player doing something that's kind of out the norm, like
Mm.
he committed suicide or he committed a crime,
Yeah.
or maybe he shot and killed people. Like, there's been
Mm.
quite a few of them
Yeah.
cases out now. When they check their brains, normally these guys have been having what they call CTE. It was discovered by a doctor from Nigeria. And so the NFL knew these things were happening. They knew these athletes were suffering, and they tried to cover it up. There's a movie called Concussion that came out that kind of exposed everything. And so it's the same thing, but most people, when they think about CTE, they think it only refers to NFL players.
Mm.
But along my journey, what I learned, it's the housewife who had domestic violence against her, and
Mm.
she's been hit so many times. It's our military people coming back from being around a compression blast.
Yeah.
They're coming back with it, and and uh, and it definitely is strong in my community too, in the Winter Olympic side. So
Wow.
reason why what started me this is I watched my teammates die. They were dying,
Wow.
and I was right there close to them, and I was dealing with the same stuff. And once I kind of figured out what it was, like, for many years I thought it was diabetes because the red flags. Usually you have the symptoms of stuff,
Hmm.
but for me, like, I was misguided with the symptoms. Like, I thought it
Mm.
was diabetes because I had low energy. I couldn't get out of the bed.
Mm.
And for me, like, every night before I went to bed, I would have to take a thermos of coffee and put it on the nightstand, or a bottle of Coca-Cola. These are like things that I never drank as a kid. I mean, not as a kid, but as an athlete, I didn't drink that stuff. And I never let my kids drink that stuff either. So, but I began to live off of it. And yeah, but CT is pretty brutal. Like, it'll take your mind, your memory, your ability to rationalize. Uh, man, it's just, you're in the gutter.
So
You're
it's
100% in the gutter.
is it repeated concussions over and over again? Is that what the cause of it is, or is it just any kind of brain injury?
Well, for the military guys, most of them is the compression blast. Like, if something explodes and that pressure hits you in the face, that's
Mm.
it. That's all you need.
Oh, so it could
Um,
just be one incident that caused it.
I believe it. I believe that's the case because I spoke to one lady, and she was telling me that she had a doctor's appointment, and she was frustrated because her doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with her.
Mm.
And when she mentioned her symptoms, I was like, that's funny. That lines up with our concussion people.
Mm.
And I said, did you play sports? And she's like, no. I said, did you I knew she had went through a divorce. I said, did you have any domestic violence, like injuries? And she's like, no, nothing like that. And we talked for a minute, and then she eventually said, oh yeah, one time I was snowboarding with my son, and when I fell backwards and hit my head, and she said, and my arm seized up like this.
Oh,
And I was like,
wow.
okay. Yeah, I was like, okay. Well, your doctors they can't figure out what it is because they're not looking for that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so I gave her the information of what to take to them and share it with them, because like this stuff is invisible. Like doctors aren't checking the brains.
Yeah.
Like, and even if they did, they wouldn't find CTE until postmortem, so till you die.
Oh, so it doesn't
So
show up on, like, an MRI?
no, it does not. It's hidden.
Wow.
You literally have to die for them to dissect your brain to figure it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, can you share with the listeners what are like some of the common symptoms if they're feeling like, oh, this sounds like what I'm dealing with? Can you share a little
Yeah.
bit more like what the symptoms are presenting as?
Yeah. One of the first ones that people normally do, like the first ones I was struggling with, I was in my 30s. I would go into a room to get something and just forget what I came there for, or I'm trying to
Mm,
do something I can't. And when you start telling people that you're having that problem, most people minimize it for you. They be like, oh, I
yeah.
do the same thing,
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is that I also have migraines all the time. I have vertigo still from my concussions. I'm lost. I was getting lost in my own community.
Mm,
I was cloudy. I had these random cloudy days. That's why I thought it was diabetes, because
mm,
I'll start pumping a bunch of caffeine. I'll be cloudy, and they were random. But eventually,
mm.
they slowly took over, and eventually, I didn't have many days of clarity after that. And it was so
Wow.
slow, I never saw it coming. Like it just one day was just there. I don't even know exactly when it was, but one day it was just, every day. And but the sad part, it took for my teammate to, well, it's been a few of my teammates who took their life. Like even
Wow.
my driver from the World Championships, he took his life at the Olympic Training Center.
Wow.
And yeah, any Olympic medal that was won by the men since 2003, that was him. And
Wow.
yeah, he's gone. And there's been a few others and many others who've tried, but we had a few Parkinson's, seizures, strokes, all the neurological stuff.
Right.
What's
Yeah.
going on.
When you're describing that, I could see a doctor thinking it's like early onset Alzheimer's or dementia or something else, and then treating it in a different manner than what you're talking about and really not helping, right? Like you said, it gets
Yeah,
worse and worse because they're looking for the wrong thing. So how
yeah.
how are you able to help people get the like if they're going to the doctor and they're like, "Oh, well, maybe you have this or maybe you have that." How are the people you're working with able to advocate for themselves?
Well, this is the trick. The doctors are asking, what's going on right now?
Mm,
That's the wrong question. They need to
mm,
ask, where have you been and what have you been doing?
mm,
Because it's so simple. Like if you look at the ladies who getting it now, they got it from falling, playing with the kids and falling down. They're
mm,
getting it from domestic violence. These are regular ladies walking around our community with us. And then
yeah,
we have we have the athletes and we have the military. We all got it from different things, but it's all the
mm,
same thing. That is just the repetitive hits to the head. But
mm,
I'm not quite sure. Like that one lady, she only fell once.
right.
She fell once, and she still has the symptoms. But when I started really doing the numbers, when I was clear enough, it made sense to me.
Mm,
Like for every time I had an injury as an athlete, like there's a treatment plan for you.
mm,
Like let me break it down. Like if you had let's say a torn muscle.
right.
First thing they're going to do for the first 72 hours, they put ice on it to keep that swelling from coming up there because all the blood and stuff rushes there to protect the area. And so
Mhm,
we have to get that out. So we ice it. Then after 72 hours, then we heat and we'll alternate heat and cold and hot, cold to get the circulation going. And then we'll probably do electric stimulation where they make the muscle
mhm,
jump. And then they'll do ultrasound. And then when you get to the end, it's almost healed up. We have a knot or some scar tissue in there.
right.
And at the Olympic Training Center, that's when a lady comes out or a guy and he has a white rag. And you're dreading that white rag because we know what that white rag means. It's for us to bite it. And they're gonna
Mm,
come in with the elbow and they're gonna put it right on that knot and do cross friction.
uh,
And they're gonna just
try
man,
to
you see
work
the
out the
biggest,
scar
strongest
tissues.
men in yeah, yeah, you can see the biggest, strongest men in the world on that table screaming like little girls, man, because it's painful.
Yeah.
However, now let's change that. When you go to the brain and you get that brain injury or it's concussion or you hit the head, whatever it was, the only treatment most people get is the same thing that we all receive. They tell you don't fall asleep for the first few hours.
Right.
That's it. There was no more to it than that. And so my question is, how do you remove that inflammation that's up there?
Yeah. You can't really
You
ice
know,
your brain, you know? Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And so for me, when I heard about hyperbaric chamber, I heard about it from Joe Namath. And are you familiar with Joe Namath?
Isn't he a famous football player?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
You get 100 points for that. You get 100
Yay.
points for that. Yeah. He said he used it to hyperbarics to reverse his CTE symptoms, but he never
Wow.
left the details of what he was dealing with. And I was like, but I tried everything. I tried, it didn't work, and so I didn't think it would work. And so I went there, and this company in Orange County let me try it for free.
Oh,
And so I
nice.
go in this chamber. Yeah, 1 hour. I'm in the chamber for 1 hour, and I get out. My glasses are slightly tinted, right? And because I'm sensitive to lights, and so when I came out the chamber, I grabbed my glasses, but everything was so pretty and vivid. I'm just looking around, and I'm like not hardly recognizing the place.
Oh, wow.
And everything was so just the sky was extra blue, and just everything, all the colors just popped different. And then I kept picking my glasses on and off. I didn't really need them. And the salesman comes over and he said, "Hey, what's wrong?" I said, "I don't know. I don't think I need my glasses right now." And he says, "Oh, you're one of those." And I was like, okay, a salesman, he finna try to sell me
Yeah.
this
This machine.
machine. I had just bought a house, and I was like, just no, I can't afford this machine. But
Yeah.
so I'm waiting on him to put his sales pitch out to me. But he didn't. He told me that some people get immediate relief, like
Wow.
I do, and some people need like 2 sessions a day for 30 days to get the same
Right.
relief. And it's just, man, this thing has been a blessing. So I had 10 years of cloudiness. I was in dementia for sure.
Wow.
And 1 hour in that machine, it's wiped it off of me. And
Wow.
after 6 days, I started to feel that sensation of it coming back.
Mm.
They let me come back that second week. At the end of that week, I went back. It was a Friday, I believe. And next thing I know, I was clear for 9 days. And so
Wow.
eventually I had to buy one.
Yeah.
So that's just mine. It's just behind me. I still use it. Whenever I start feeling awful, I hop back in that thing. And yeah, it's
So,
just
what is the hyperbaric chamber doing to the brain? Because I don't know much about them except like famous celebrities have them, and it's supposed to be this secret thing that they do, right, to feel better.
yeah. Well, if you come to Los Angeles and you go to Beverly Hills, you see these things in a lot of people's homes too. But they have the big ones made out of metal, and the clinical ones.
Mm-hmm.
What they do is it makes your body believe it's minimal of 7 to 9 feet underwater. So they say
Oh,
your blood turns into like a gas at that point, and so now we can get through all the blockages. So
wow.
if you have a stroke, rich people know to go get in hyperbaric chamber, go through the therapy. That'll reverse those symptoms. If you have cancer, um, and a lot of doctors now will put you on chemo and hyperbaric oxygen at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. But there's a couple different ones that you can't take chemos with it. That's what I found out. But what it softens the cancer tissues, and they say cancer can't live in an oxygenated environment, and so this thing oxygenates all the cells in your body.
Wow.
Is how the science is explained to me. Now,
So is it similar to like scuba diving or free diving then? Like, would
my
somebody get the
God,
same result if they went scuba diving for like a couple hours?
I can't believe you're the only person who's ever said that and connected those dots before I mentioned it. About a month ago, I was interviewed by a podcast from Great Britain. It was
Mhm.
military, and the military people, like in Europe, I guess in Great Britain, in the UK, you can't deep sea dive there. So he was telling me some of their pilots had the same issues. So what they do, they go to this little island, and he said they go deep sea diving. He said when they go down, he said it so weirdly. He was like they go down and they stay down there a really long time. He said, when I say long time, I mean a really, really, really long. I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
He said, and when they come back up, man, they're like healed.
Wow.
And actually, every time you get in this machine back here, it's called a dive. So
Wow.
they have found a different way to do the same thing that this thing here is doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure the chamber is much safer. You're not dealing with all the equipment. You don't have to get PADI certified and all those things. But
And the
yeah, especially
sharks.
for people, yeah, especially who are people
Yeah.
who are afraid of water or things like that, don't know how to
Yeah.
swim. But it's ironic because I have a friend who's working on a documentary with a doctor, psychiatrist out of Northern California who's doing a lot of research on free diving and post-traumatic stress
Oh.
disorder. And so what you're describing, I was like, "Oh, this sounds like the same relief that these people are getting from free diving." But your experience is for an hour, right? You can't free dive for an hour. You can go for maybe, I don't know, a couple minutes or something, right? But there's something about, like you're saying, that compression of the blood to release, this experience that your brain feels
Yeah.
when it's under that water. So that is really, really cool. So you bought the machine, you start to see results, and then are you just like now an evangelist for the hyperbaric chambers? Like, oh, how did this
Well,
play out?
once I got to the point where I was stable again, like, well, the part I didn't tell you is like every day when I woke up, I knew I didn't know the right day.
Mm.
So my thing is, well, once I got that caffeine in me, I had a little daily planner. Matter of fact, the crazy part is I had a phone. Why didn't I just look at my phone? But I had a
Yeah,
system in place, and I used that system.
yeah.
And once I put that system in place, it started to save me because I kept
Mm,
stepping in these same potholes over and over. And
mm,
so one of the things I did every day, I knew I didn't know the right day. So I opened up that little planner every morning. I figured, okay, today is Monday. Okay, cool. Now, what month is it? I always thought it was January or August. I didn't know the
wow.
difference. Yeah. And so once I figured that out, I walk out to my living room. And this is before I was laying on the floor. And I had these white scrolls on my walls, like 8-foot scrolls you roll out like whiteboards. And
Mm,
they're like 8 feet long, about 2 feet tall. And I had them divided into three sections: one for like work, medical, appointments, and then entertainment. Like if I was going to go on a date or something. Like
mm.
I was missing dates because I couldn't. I was processing
Oh,
information differently. Like for
right.
example, let's say me and you met, and you say, "Hey, Will, let's go have." Today's Monday. Let's say let's go have dinner on Tuesday.
Mm,
I'll be like, "Oh yeah, cool, great." But what I didn't tell you, Tuesday is so far away, I can't see it. So
mm.
you're gonna go to the place on Tuesday, which is the next day, and you're gonna be like, you're gonna call me, and I'm gonna answer the phone, and you're gonna be mad at me. You're gonna be like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
where
why
are
ain't you
you?
here? You here?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm here. What are you doing over there?" I kept doing that. And
Mm,
so what I learned is if I'm talking to someone and they want to do something, let's say tomorrow, if they say, "Hey, let's have lunch tomorrow," I'll be there. Like my brain will click with that. But there was some deficiencies going on. So I learned to
mm,
get around that by writing everything down. Like I just,
mm,
that was how I started this. And the truth is, like, just once I saw it was working and I became alive again, I just
mm,
had to spread the word. And like, I don't sell chambers. I'm not endorsed by any chamber company. I don't get any residuals, any kickbacks. But what I learned is all these people dealing with the same stuff, and
yeah.
it's all the same symptoms, and it has to be all the same treatment. That's what I
Mm,
believe.
mm.
Matter of fact, in 2020, 2021, and 2022, each year we lost around 6,400 veterans to suicide.
Yeah.
And now that I know it was CTE, it's
Mm,
one thing that's really scary about that. When you have CTE, your brain goes into this loop, and that's why you see a lot of the
mm,
people killing themselves. But I believe that these military guys, they're coming back. They're the best trained killers in the world now. And
mm.
so, matter of fact, about 2 months ago, there was a mass shooter went to a place in New York. He wanted to shoot the NFL office up, and he
Oh,
left a
yes, I remember
CTE.
that one.
Yeah, you saw the CTE suicide note. Okay,
Mhm.
well, that guy was right. He actually did have CTE. They checked his brain. He had it. But
Wow.
my phone was going crazy because I help a lot of people with these issues. And so I
Yeah.
made a video. If you go on my TikTok channel, One Man with a Chamber, you'll see me with a red Team USA shirt on. And I look disheveled. I was walking and talking. I ain't doing any cleanup. I was just, so please forgive me. But in that
Yeah.
video, I tell people, I was like, you know what? We see athletes doing these awful things. I said, but they're not the population I'm afraid of. I said, what I'm afraid of is our military guys because they're now the best trained killers. And I know what I felt. I know what's going through my head with the one to die and take my life and just begging for death. Once you get
Mm,
there, you're on a loop. It's like that 24 hours a day. There's nothing else going on in your brain except that. And I
mm,
said, we have to get ahead of this because Like, it's gonna be a wave. My words were, "It's gonna be a wave of military mass shootings coming." So I made that video on that day. I posted it. The next day, I had a court with the judge, and I told him the same thing I told you on the courthouse
Mm,
steps. I made the same speech. And
yeah.
then the very next week, there was a veteran. He went to a bar in Montana. I think it's a place called Anaconda, Montana, and he killed 4 people, and he
Mm.
and he ran out into the woods. He was hiding in the woods for a week before they caught him. And then as they
Oh,
caught
wow.
him, another active military guy went onto one of the bases, and he shot up people on the base. And then as
Yeah.
that finished up 2 weeks after that, which was about 3 weeks ago, another veteran went to a Mormon church in Minnesota. He burned half
I
that
did hear about
church.
that one.
He went to the front and he started shooting. And those are just the ones that we know about,
Right,
and that's
right.
3
Especially
veterans.
because I'm sure the military isn't like all bragging about these issues they're having with the veterans because we see so many veterans struggling when they come back
Yeah,
from active
yeah,
duty. It's a big problem and although our, government's budget for the military is horrendously huge, they're not spending it
yeah,
on helping veterans. They don't have hyperbaric chambers on the bases, right?
yeah,
Like there isn't a lot of investment on the veterans when they come back, reintegrating and helping them live successful, meaningful lives. And so
absolutely.
you've got this passion now and you've got a location and you have a nonprofit. So can you talk more about how you've seen people benefit from this and what you're hoping that you can help people with your centers that you're gonna create?
Yeah, actually, I'm the walking guinea pig. I raced for 9 years, 4 to 5 months of the year, 1 to 6 rides a day down a bobsleigh track for, 4 to 5 days of the week. I did that for 9 years. So,
Wow.
what I know now about that sport is every time I went down that track, I was probably getting at least a micro concussion at worst, or at
Yeah,
best probably. So yeah, and so that doesn't count for the crashes that we have and the rough tracks,
right.
or when the ice is bumpy and we go through there. It's equivalent to shaking baby syndrome. It's like you're
It's like
doing this.
yeah, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so with that being said, like it's literally I've learned it's all the same stuff. It's from I looked at the symptoms, I looked at the people. Like a lot of times it was called PTSD. And then when they do
Mm,
the autopsy, they find out, guess what? He has CTE.
CTE. Or they
So
used
it's
to
a lot
call
of
it shell shock.
misdiagnosis.
Yeah,
Shell
back in the
shell
day,
shock.
shell shock,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. So
I
a lot
do
of people
think
don't
too,
know.
like what you're talking about is we see more men are athletes, more men are involved in the military, more men have risk-taking behavior where they're like bridge
Absolutely.
jumping and they're parkouring and they're skateboarding or doing these things, right? So we're going to
Yeah,
see a higher instance of men with CTE than we are from women, probably just because of the males, behavior and they're more adventurous
yeah.
overall.
But some of those male behaviors, like I said, with the violence toward the women, is causing it
Mm,
in the women's side as well. Like
yeah,
we're now housewives who were battered for 20 years, and now when they do their autopsy, they had CTE. So the
wow.
information is starting to come out, but it's not coming out where everybody's really paying attention. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
made a graph the other day just to show everybody, look, the symptoms are identical. It's all the same brain stuff. And
Mm,
I'm like, just wake up. We have to, it's not like I can predict it. I can look at people and I can predict it now. It's that predictable
mm.
once you actually pay attention. Like there's
Yeah.
been NFL players. I was like, okay, they have a few months before, this all kicks in. And people are like, why are
Mm,
you saying these things? And the next thing you know what happens. And I was like, because I saw it on him.
yeah,
I can
yeah,
see it. It's matter of fact, everybody can see it if you pay attention. But it's
mhm,
one of them things that's only your loved ones are going to catch it because
right,
they always say the same thing. I think the last 8 to 10 suicides I watched, the wives were like, they were living separate from the husband, except for one. And they
mm,
all said the same thing. They just began not to act like themselves anymore.
mm,
Or you hear it on the news, like, oh, that person was such a nice guy. I never saw
yeah,
it coming. And so when you see your loved ones start to do things that you question, that's just out of their character, it
mm,
probably means they need help. And the
yeah,
sad part of it is, just like myself, like, I never saw it coming. I didn't know what it was. And one of the things that really made me understand that is like at one point, like I got to the point where the ground in front of me was doing this, right?
mm,
And let me okay. I lived in a neighborhood, like I lived on this square block right here in the middle of it. This is all apartments all the way around it. And so some days I was so cloudy, I refused to drive. I knew I shouldn't be driving. I don't want to hurt anybody. So I would just come out of my apartment, come here, make a left, make a left. Stores are here. I go get me a salad and walk home. Some days I would get lost.
Just in
It's
that
just like,
small area.
yeah, wasn't even a mile, not a mile. And I'm right, I'm almost straight lines, like, boom. And
Yeah.
so sometime I'll be in my apartment, I'm about to leave, and I would ask myself, okay, what if I go the other way? What's over there? And I couldn't figure it out. Like I was having a meltdown. Like, what is over there?
Oh,
It's the same
wow.
thing. I just made 2 right turns. Like, this is
Yeah.
how sneaky this thing is. And when it happens, like, you really have no say so over it. And you don't really know what you're really dealing with. You don't. And so the biggest catalyst for me was I had bought a lake house because in the Midwest, it was a little small, humble place. And I knew I was going. I'm on the ground begging for death every day. I'm just praying, asking for it. And I keep waking up, but I know I'm lost in my community. I'm in dementia. Doctors aren't helping me. So I bought this place close to home, and I came back to LA, closed out my apartment. And it was a young lady that I was spending time with. So I would come see her in LA sometimes. Sometimes she comes see me in Missouri at the lake house. And so one time I'm at the lake house, and she's on the phone with her family a lot, right? And they're from New Yorkers, and they just talk loud. Just put it
They're
that way.
loud.
They talk so
I'm
loud.
from
Oh,
the
they're
East
loud,
Coast
man.
originally. We're loud
Yeah,
people. Yeah.
yeah. And this is during COVID, so it's like we stuck in the house together. So it wasn't none of that. We're gonna be outside away from each other, have some quiet. No. So that noise was killing me so bad. I told her I think we have to break up. I said I'm going back to the lake house to get some peace and quiet. I said, who am I to tell you to be quiet in your own house? I'm not
Right.
that guy. And so I go back to the lake house, and someone sends me an article called Sledhead, written by the New York Times. That article talked about my teammates, the suicide, some of the suicides. They didn't talk about all of them. And it talked about some of the symptoms, like we had guys with Parkinson's and just different,
Right.
neurological stuff going on. So I read this article and I get on my knees and I thank God that all my symptoms miss me. I was like, yes. I took the same article, sent it to my girlfriend. She circled some stuff. First thing I noticed was noise sensitivity. It was the very reason why we're apart. And I went, uh-oh. Then I went down that list again. I checked almost every box except for Parkinson's. And I was
Wow.
like, oh my God, now I know. I still didn't know it was CTE, but I knew it was something to do with this. And at that same time, my teammate who called me speaking of gibberish, his autopsy report came out. Found out he was in stage 4. And I was like, okay. And
Wow.
so it let me know, like all that guilt I had for not helping him kind of went away because I knew I couldn't help him at stage 4. And I realized how much
Yeah.
trouble I was in. That's when I finally understood.
Right.
That's why the ground is moving. That's why you're lost in your community. That's why you land on this floor. That's why you don't know the days. That's why you
Yeah.
think you got adult ADHD. That's one of the symptoms. Most adults think they got this new ADHD. No, you didn't have it in your 20s,
Right.
your teens, or your 30s. Now, you think it showed up in your 50s? No, that's not what that really is. And so what most people
Yeah.
think that CTE is a mental health issue, it's not. I believe, my personal opinion is it's a physical injury that didn't get fixed. It had gotten
Right.
absolutely no treatment. And
Yeah.
that's why I believe when I got in that chamber for that first hour, and it just took 10 years of cloudiness off me.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you have your nonprofit is starting to open a location in LA. Is that where the first center is going to be?
No, I believe it's going to be in St. Louis. The buildings I picked out there,
Okay, in
there's
St. Louis.
properties that I can, yeah, because like for what I can spend here for 10 months of rent, I can buy the building. And the goal for this thing is to get it up
That's
running,
smart.
not for profit. And when my day comes where I leave this earth, I want it to still be here to continue to serve. Even though we're starting with the athletes in the military, it will be open to the public because there's, like I said, I won't leave out the housewives and the kids. You hear all these
Yeah.
young teenagers who've been playing this tackle football and they're going through it too. It's just, it's just brutal. It's because we really aren't educating people on what this is and how they're getting it and how many people actually have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking about equestrian, gymnastics. Like there's all these sports that kids play at a
Yeah.
very young age and they fall down and they fall down and they fall down and they hit their head. And so I'm
Yeah.
sure it's much more pervasive than we think. especially because the medical industry isn't, aware of it, and there's not much they can do to figure out the puzzle pieces. Um, and also the industries like the NFL and the military, of course, they don't want to talk about this stuff because they're the ones
Yeah.
causing it, right? And so it's not like they're going to be like, "Hey, everybody, here's the symptoms of CTE. Check for your loved ones," because
Yeah.
then it's going to hit their pocketbooks, so to speak. Um, so you're
But
going to
it's better.
start in St. Louis.
Mhm. Mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was saying it's better if it hit their pocketbooks now because, like, I mean, that's 30. We buried 20,000 veterans in 3 years to
Yeah,
suicide. They have released the numbers for the last
yeah,
2 years. Like, how much money is that costing our country?
hmm
You know
yeah,
how much. The families who get left behind. It's like, yeah, and that
hmm
doesn't include the mass shootings we have going on. The last few mass shootings
yeah,
were actually CTE related stuff. Nobody mentioned any of
yeah.
that. I'm like, why am
No,
I the only one talking about this thing here? And the
yeah,
truth is, the
yeah.
article did come out. Article came out in December of last year, 2024, and it man, it was so kind of mind blowing. Our military pilots have the identical issues as the bobsters. Everything that I was been explaining.
Wow.
Yeah, so the article came out in December, and I took it to the judge and to the court, to the lawyers in courts. I'm trying to show them there's a connection here because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
one time I took some fighter pilots down a bobsled track. Now we're only supposed to pull 5 Gs. These fighter pilots, I thought they pulled more like 15, 20 Gs, but they told me they only
Right.
pulled
Yeah.
six. So
Okay.
I did 6 rides that day. We took those guys down. They did one, and they were rattled at the end, and it didn't make sense to me. But that
Mm,
article of Sledhead also said that they tested one of their tracks in Canada. It's actually one of the mildest tracks. And we had spikes of 84.5 G forces. And I was thinking,
wow.
oh my goodness. I said, that can't be right. We'd all be messed up. And the truth is, we're all messed up because of
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, since you have such a personal, you know, intimate relationship with bobsledding, is this something that if you could go back, like tell people don't do bobsledding, don't engage in this because it's such a high instance of it? Like, is there even a safe way to bobsled without these injuries?
There's a safe way to do it. They need to remove those pressure points that produce all those G forces.
Mm,
Like, they need to do that, number one. And number two, like, I would not, when I started to speak out, I never did it to destroy the Olympic team. That was number
right.
one. And when I filed a class action lawsuit, I only requested that they help the guys. I said, help the guys. And I said, warn the new generation. I never said,
Right.
will person wants $1 million or will person wants any money from you. I was like, help everybody who needs help is what I requested. And I said, warn the new generation because they didn't warn. They tricked all of us. They tricked us all. They didn't tell
Yeah.
us about this stuff. And I found out later, I knew they knew about it. It was going on.
Mm,
And so that bothers me. So for
yeah.
me, I would never say not do a sport because the sport is really that dangerous, but I wouldn't do a sport where people who control it don't really care about you. And they're showing you, like right
Mm,
now, my number one request was warn the new generation. And we're still in court right now because they want to fight me on the words of that. And
mm,
now they want to tell them about the concussions. But look, I knew I had a concussion before with them. But what I didn't know is in a few years, my memory was going to fade.
yeah.
I didn't know I was going to stop recognizing people that love me because that started happening to me while I was still in the sport. And every
Wow.
day I wake up, I got to figure out what the day and month we're in. Like concussion,
Mhm.
they make it sound like it's such a random thing. Okay, you just go sit down and don't go to sleep like they told us to do. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not. It's a lot more to it now, and we all understand that, and they understand that, and they should really be speaking up. They should be the biggest advocate more than
Mhm.
me. I shouldn't even have to say anything. Yeah. Matter of fact, I would
Yeah.
probably not take very many interviews anymore if they were actually warning the athletes because I wouldn't feel the need to.
Yeah, like this
Yeah.
is kind of your thing that you're passionate about because you want to help people. So, since
Yes,
you've had so
absolutely.
much experience with the hyperbaric chamber, if somebody, like let's say their kid falls off their bike and has a head injury or something, if they got them to a hyperbaric chamber near them and immediately got them in, is there some preventative stuff that would happen? Like, how does the hyperbaric chamber work if it's a recent versus a long-term, issue?
Well, I think that would be better because, like, as soon as you pull a muscle, we automatically throw ice on it. And when they strap it down and they compress it, like, we have to do something. But right now,
Right.
there's not been any Americans who had a concussion in the last, well, let me take 5 years off the table. But prior to 5 years ago,
Mhm.
they just didn't treat concussions here. They didn't
Right.
treat concussions anywhere. We all got the same crappy advice, which is don't go to
Don't
sleep,
go to
which,
sleep, keep your head
yeah,
elevated, or yeah, all those
yeah.
things.
A doctor recently told me that's only for people who have open wounds to the head. They said actually, if you hit your head and you go to sleep, it's probably the best thing because now you're recovering. I was like,
Oh.
wow, that makes sense. I never heard that before.
Yeah, that it's funny that you mentioned that because I was doing EMDR. And
Okay.
after the sessions, I would be extremely tired and I would want to take a nap. And if I didn't take a nap, I would kind of like you said, cloudy, disassociative, kind of out of it all day. But when I talked to my doctor about it, the therapist that was working with me, she goes, "Well, when you sleep, your brain has time to process, recover, and kind of clear and work through things, right? It's moving
Yeah,
things around. And so it would make sense like sleeping might give your brain a break so that it can actually work on things instead of having to keep this body operating, right, while it's also dealing with the injury.
absolutely.
But yeah,
Yeah,
this is fascinating. I feel like we could talk for a million years about these treatments. So
absolutely.
if somebody
Yeah.
wants to work with you, like, can you tell us, like, how can they find out more about this? Do you like, what's your website? And just kind of give us all the information.
Okay. Well, I just renamed the company, so my website is being redone. It was originally my last name, which is Person CTE Wellness Center, and I
Okay.
changed the name to because there was really, it's like our original people that we're going to be treating is going to be our soldiers and our
Mhm.
American athletes.
Yeah.
And so what unites is an American flag. So I took my name off of it and I changed it to American. So it'll be American as part of so it's American Post Concussion Wellness Center.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
that'll be the name of it now. Yeah. And so, but right now, if you need to find me right now, if you want to donate, there is a crowdfunding going on right now. You can find me. My
Okay.
first name is William. My last name Person. Like everyone's a person. You can donate there. We also have a 501c3 if you need write-offs. So that's actually we filed for it already. They said we're clear to go, but it'll be official probably in the next 30 days or so. But we can still offer the 501c3, and if for some reason it doesn't work, we'll return any money that if we don't get a 501c3. But they said we're pretty clear to go.
Nice.
And
So you're
yeah,
fundraising to buy more of the machines to set up the center in St. Louis.
yeah, I got really lucky. My dad, he retired from a roofing company. He has a roofing company. He retired a few years ago. He has this huge building. It's so big, it has 3 addresses on it. He's
Wow.
about to sell it. Yeah, he's about to sell it. And I was like, wait a minute, Dad. I think I might need that building. So I'm going to purchase the building from him and donate it into the thing myself. But I'm going to need help with the build out because it
Right.
was a roofing company and it's so big. It's like it's got the two end buildings have like I don't know, it's like a 2-story buildings, but they're like garages. We have
Oh,
RVs
they're
parked
like
all through there.
warehouses. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in the middle, we have it's a storefront on the bottom and there's an apartment on the top. And so,
Mm,
I mean, it's just 3 different buildings and they're all connected. And we have plenty of space to do everything that we need to do. And it's right close to some of the biggest hospitals in the world over there. Some famous like Barnes Jewish Hospital. And
mm.
then it's right next to Washington University. We're all in that
Oh,
same
nice.
neighborhoods. Yeah, so we
Nice.
got a good place. And I just need to raise a little funds so we can buy some more of the equipment. Like this one here, this one's not really made to do for the wear and tear to bring a lot of people through there.
Oh, yeah. It'd be
And
running basically like all day long.
yeah, and so if
Yeah.
I put one person in this chamber, I could probably fit two in this chamber, but they have to really like each other. And we just because you're so compressed in there. But if I ran this thing right now and I could only do one person per hour, and really, what's a lower pressure chamber, you really need 90 minutes instead of an hour. But
Mm,
if I get some of the bigger metal chambers, there's one that a company wants to build for me right now. They're talking about doing some partnerships. It's a 6-person chamber. So with a
wow.
6-person chamber and they're metal, we can run that just 1 hour sessions. And if I'm open 8 hours a day, that's 48 people per day that we can actually treat.
Yeah.
And which And I know you guys don't really understand this, but when I think about those 20 soldiers who took their life, like none of them were in a darker place than I was. Like I know what this
Mm,
is. They couldn't have
yeah.
had more concussions than me. I'm the worst case possible scenario. You just go back and check my record with Team USA. I was sliding every day for
Wow.
9 years, man. Well, half the year, and so I'm the worst. And I haven't seen anyone not get the help they needed from this thing so far.
Yeah.
And it started with Joe Namath. It's not I didn't create this at all. I didn't recreate the wheel. Matter of fact, when I came out the dementia phase and I realized I didn't know I was in dementia, first of all.
Mhm.
Now, once I came out, I was like, hey, wait a minute. I was in dementia. And so when I started going to the people who manufacture these things and who sell them, I was trying to explain to them. I thought I had recreated the wheel. I done found something that's new. And I said, hey, guys, I was in dementia. I'm not in it anymore. And they was like, oh, you mean like this? They pull out this brochure. And it was telling me how people with dementia and Alzheimer's, there's so many studies how they put them through there for the same thing. And so, like, what I thought
Wow.
was new and inventive, like I did something that's never been. No, there's lots of people doing it, and it's not
Wow.
accessible to most people because the price tag
Right.
is the
It's a very
difference. Yeah,
expensive treatment. Yeah, which it's
yeah,
good to know too, because we didn't really touch on that. If you have a loved one that has dementia or Alzheimer's and you can get access to one of these nearby you or, eventually come to St.
yeah.
Louis for treatment, I think that'll be phenomenal because like you're saying, it has so many practical uses for so many people,
So
that could
yes,
benefit from it. Um, I'm like even now like gonna go look and see if there's one on the island where I can try to find and say try it out because it sounds like it could benefit in so many different ways. Um,
absolutely, yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely,
well, thank you so much, William, for sharing your story. I know a lot of people are going to resonate with this, especially somebody who's an Olympic athlete, because that's one of the things that we put these people on a pedestal. Like, look at them, they're the pinnacle of health. They're representing our
yeah,
country and they're competing for glory and they put everything on the line and they've dedicated their life to this sport. And the sacrifice that you made for your physical body and your long term, it's
yeah,
it's something that needs to be recognized and honored, and so unfortunately, our government, I mean, God, the USA should have bought you a hyperbaric chamber and gave it to you for free for everything you did.
absolutely,
But that's
yeah,
that's one of the things I think, like you saying with the class action lawsuit, if we can all collectively start holding these institutions accountable for the damage they're causing and make them do something about it. Like if the military were providing these treatments for free and paying for them, or the Olympic team, or all of these
yeah,
other things like you were talking about, it would do so much good for our communities and our culture, so I really appreciate
yeah.
you sharing your story and I'm really grateful for you coming on. And we will link your website and all your information in the show notes, and
Okay,
I can link your socials too. That way people can go follow you on TikTok or on
yeah.
IG. And just thank you again for coming on, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, also on the court update, just so you guys know,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened or where it happened, but my lawyers are now teamed up with the defense lawyers.
Oh,
They
wow.
gave us, yeah, they gave us an offer. The offer, I'm the lead plaintiff, so only I can approve or deny the offers. And so the offer they put out to us was they will monitor us only. And so no treatment. So they want to treat us kind of like lab rats. And I was like,
Mm,
wait a minute, how is that
no,
going to help anybody?
no.
And so, but my lawyers, they're all together now. And so I hired a new lawyer who happened to be Robert Shapiro. He did an investigation.
I know Robert Shapiro.
Yeah, he
He's
sent me.
fun.
I still got a cell number. We spoke a few times. He sent me an email. Will, I fired your lead attorney, but we kept the co-counsel because we know them, and we're gonna get you guys the help that you need. And I'm thinking, okay, yes.
Good.
24 hours later, he calls me back. No, sends me an email. He said, hey, Will, sorry, we can't help you. There's an offer on the table already. Unless the judge rejects it, we can't help you. And
Oh,
I told him,
wow.
like, you're my lawyer. The judge should never hear the offer because I didn't approve the offer.
Yeah.
But anyway, I saw him moonwalk, and somebody said something that got to him. I
Mm,
don't know who's doing this or why. I can't even point the finger or I know exactly where it's coming from, but my lawyers went from trying to help us to really just stand out there with the defense. So the last 3 court hearings, this is all public record, guys. So you can
Yeah,
come and
yeah.
support us. The next court hearing is December 17th at
Mm,
9 a.m. But like the last 3 court session is really just me fighting the other lawyers. And my lawyer is one of the best lawyers in the country for this stuff.
mm.
So now I'm not only fighting them, but also the lawyers that the Olympic team hired. So
Wow.
I'm the last man standing. And think back, for me, 2.5, 3 years ago, I was struggling with putting together sentences and words.
Yeah,
And so for me now to be strong enough to stand up to these guys is truly a blessing.
that's
But I've really
amazing.
turned that corner, and I'm really more focused on the healing side, which is open up this center. Matter of
Yeah,
fact, this is the only place that you're ever going to find this service done for free. This is going to be a free service. So
yeah.
I've rejected all kind of all monies from like investors. Like, I don't want it. If
Mm,
it's a donation, absolutely. If you
right.
want to put your name on something, fine. But if you want a return on money, I can't help you because I'm not going to send that bill back to our people. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so what I'm doing is something that's not been done. It's I'm getting a lot of flack on it,
Yeah.
because
Well, and it's a
everybody wants to
testament
make money.
because if
Yeah,
people were in your situation, they don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to go through these elaborate court proceedings, right? It's
yeah,
exhausting even for somebody who's got everything going, right? Like all systems firing to go to
yeah,
court and be grilled by a judge or grilled by an attorney. It's very wearing and tearing, and most people will give up. So I applaud you for not
yeah.
giving up and continuing on this path.
Well, they bullied me. They've done everything to try to make me go away, even offering money
Yeah,
to make this thing go away, and I didn't accept that money. I got people that I represent a lot of athletes who need the help.
yeah,
And so I've always been a philanthropist kind of person. I'm here to give back to our communities. And even with my youth centers when I was a baby, I still can't believe I was a baby with these things, man.
yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, that's who I am. This is what I'm continuing to be. And yeah, please support us, like donate to our crowdfunding, and please just share it, share it, share it. Remember, this is going to be it's open to the public at some point. So
yeah, for
it might
sure.
come back and save your loved one's life too. And what I'm
Yeah.
hoping is going to happen, this is a capitalistic country. When I opened my youth center, it was a new and creative. It had never been done before. And so once I opened, all these private providers came to me.
Mm.
When they come to me, they cloned my program.
They
And so
cloned you.
everybody,
They
yeah, they
ripped you
cloned me.
off.
Oh, they did. And everybody was like, you got to sue them. You should sue them. I was like, no, I can't help everybody.
Right.
And these things need to be in place. So I'm really hoping that once I get up and going and everybody sees it, because right now I'm helping people, but I'm moving people around to chambers where they can get them for free, where they can
Mm.
get it, where people who will treat them for free.
Right.
And I'm doing all that kind of stuff on my own right now. But the only difference is we're not going to have a physical address with the
Right.
equipment there. So now they can come to me. And if you need 30 days of treatment, I'm hopefully gonna be able to I'm gonna be able to fly you in, take care of your food and your
Mm.
hopefully
Nice.
your housing and stuff, and yeah, and your treatment. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
So please
Yeah.
support us, guys. It's so important. I promise you. Do your homework. Like I said, I last probably 10 mass shooters where
Wow.
it's connected to this stuff, and no
Yeah.
one's talking about it.
Yeah. It's
But
definitely an epidemic, and people just keep pushing it aside, and they don't want to address that there's a
yeah,
severe systemic issue happening at the core of this. So I will link
yes.
also your donation page if people want to go and make donations, they can find that in the show notes as well. And thank you so much, William, for coming
Thank
on.
you.
I appreciate you sharing your story, and thank you everyone for listening and watching, and we'll see you again next time.